Hiya, welcome back. I've just started a new business recently. I'm a handyman now. I do property maintenance, exterior cleaning, all that sort of thing. Because I've just got started and because I've been broke for the longest time, I've just been working out the back of my car. As you can imagine, it's not really ideal. It's too small to fit everything. Some things don't actually fit at all. It looks kind of amateurish and it's not really doing the car any favours either. So I've been on the lookout for a suitable van. So as it's for my business, there's a few criteria it needs to fulfill. Firstly, it needs to be reliable, so I need something reasonably new. Secondly, it needs to look smart. It's going to be representing my business, so I can't go showing up in some old mail. And thirdly, it needs to be pretty much ready to get going straight away. I can't be spending too much time messing around getting it prepped before I can actually start using it. So with all that in mind, why the hell did I buy this? Is it because I'm bad at making sensible decisions? Or is it because it was 500 quid and I thought it looked cool? Maybe a little bit of both. As much as I'd like to keep it, I'll probably have to paint over the zombie stuff, and the bloody hands will have to go for sure. So underneath the dodgy looking exterior, it's not actually in bad shape. It needs work, sure, but I don't think very much. But this van's never going to be shiny and normal looking again. At least not without a lot of work I'm not really willing to put into it. So I might as well just lean into the rat rod look and just run with it. If I can't be smart, I might as well at least try and be memorable. But for now, I've got a more urgent issue. The MOT is due in 2 weeks and I need to get that sorted out first. There's a few things I need to fix, and there's a few things I need to take off because they're not legal for road use anyway. This used to be used for an airsoft place near here, and it's been set up as a prop for that. It used to spend a lot of time off the road, I think, and they could get away with that, but I can't. So the first job is the obvious one. The airbag's missing. I mean, it's not actually missing. I've got it in the back here. But I think the MOT guy would be happy with it on the steering wheel. They tend to work better that way. So first up, I need to disconnect the battery. Then get the steering wheel off so I can fit the backing plate. Okay, so I was just about to start plugging this in, and then I realised the problem. See, on the dashboard here there's a solar charger. I didn't know where it was plugged into and I didn't want it to be supplying power while I was plugging the airbag in. So I thought I'd trace that wire down and figure out where to unplug it. And I ended up in the fuse box, and I found this. That doesn't fill me with confidence. Well, that is the airbag fuse there. But that was last night. I left it overnight. I just put that over the top, stop any power getting through. So let's try plugging the airbag in. And so I plugged it in. It didn't blow up in my face, which was nice. I'm still not really sure why this had been taken off in the first place. There had to have been a reason. So I hooked up the battery, no explosions again, and fired up the engine. Once again, it didn't go off. Okay, airbag's in place now. No lights come on. Trouble is, I'd have thought there would be a light that comes on at startup. I don't know, should there be? In the meantime, I'm just going to ignore this for now. I'm just going to button it all up and pretend it's not there. I'll come back and sort this out properly in a month or two, but for now I just want to get the MOT sorted out. One thing I always do when I get a new car is make sure I can take all the wheels off with just the tools in it. I've been stranded once too often by that, so now I always make sure. After a bit of hunting, I found the jack and tools under the seat. So I've got the locking nut key, that's a good start. And that's one off. Might as well take a look around while I'm here. And this all looks pretty decent. Not such a good story on the other side though. This boot had an advisory on last year's MOT, and apparently nothing got done about it. But everything else seems okay. There's a bit of an oil leak under here, I'll need to get that fixed. Yeah, it looks like it might be from the oil filter. The back end looks okay, I'll have to do something about this though. It was on the last wheel that I ran into problems. Not only does the handbrake not work at all here, but the sill's all rusty on this side. It made horrible crunchy noises when I tried to jack it up here. It looks like someone's been here before too. It got dark after that, so I spent some time getting rid of the bits out the back I don't need. And then the next morning I took a look at the brakes. It actually looks decent enough in here. And the handbrake does look like it works. Hopefully it's just an adjuster issue. This one didn't seem to be working right, so I added one to my parts list. But for the time being, I adjusted it as best I could and put it all back together. I also adjusted the cable as the lever was going right up into the air. I took another look at that oil leak. It does look like the filter's leaking, perhaps a housing gasket as well. I'll change the filter and see if that fixes it first though. But then I found this when I tried cleaning all the muck off. So it looks like I'm going to need to fix that sump. I got my parts order in a few days later, so got to work on the driveshaft. The axle nut came off easy. The bottom ball joint, not so much. It was a pretty epic battle, as you can see from all the tools here, but I won in the end. Then I just needed to get the carrier bearing out. And then the driveshaft just pulled out. And then the gearbox dumped oil all over the driveway. The guide I read specifically said it wouldn't do that. That's what I get for trusting random forum posts, I guess. But anyway, the driveshaft just pulled out. Into the workshop, and I had a proper look. It looks like the inner boot had already been done at some point, so no need to touch that one. But the outer boot was really only fit for the bin. and whatever grease was left in there was dried up and crusty, but the joint itself actually looked okay. So I spent a bit of time cleaning all the old dried up gack out, and then left it soaking in white spirits for a while. While that was doing its thing, I put the new oil filter on. After a few minutes running, everything looked good. Back in the workshop, the CV joint had cleaned up nicely, moved nice and smooth, and didn't have any wear or scoring I could see, so it looks like I can save this one. These shafts need the stretchy type of boot fitting. I've never actually done one of these before. Could be fun. The instructions are pretty simple. Slide the cone over the shaft and give it plenty of lube. And then slide the boot over the cone in one easy motion. Yeah, so much for that one easy motion. I slipped and slid around with the boot for a few minutes, trying a couple of different positions, until... Trying to keep hold of the thing, I managed to put my finger right through it. Luckily I bought two of them. The instructions don't really say, but it's important to keep the actual boot dry, otherwise you'll never be able to hold on to it properly. Not exactly one easy motion, but two slightly difficult ones isn't bad. Easy when you know how. Then I just got it the right way around again, cleaned it up and filled it with grease, before fitting the clips. And then it went back onto the van. I buttoned everything back together and went out for a quick road test. And that's all good. Time to deal with this rust now. I spent a while poking around and actually found 3 spots that need welding. So I ground back and cut out my first patch. I'm not posh enough for all that fancy cardboard aided design, so I made my template from an old envelope and a dirty finger. I tried to be frugal here and use this old oven tray I've had in the workshop for ages. And then I cut and bent it to shape. And welded it in. The other spots were right under the sills and there's barely enough space for me, never mind a camera, so I didn't film those ones. But you probably wouldn't want to see those anyway, they weren't really my best work. Back to the brakes again, the adjuster I tensioned the other day had already lost its adjustment. So I fitted a new adjuster and new springs and fittings just for good measure. I just did the one side as this was on the evening before the MOT and it was already getting dark. So it failed the MOT, which doesn't really surprise me. In the end it wasn't actually too bad. So things it failed on: headlamp aim too high near side. They said they tried to fix that, but when they had a look, the headlamp was actually held in with a cable tie, so they had to leave that. Registration plate lamp inoperative in the case of a single lamp or all lamps. That's these guys here. I missed that when I did my pre-MOT checks. And the annoying one: parking brake efficiency below requirements. So I think I'm just going to get a new handbrake cable for that. I haven't really got time to mess around. I'll just throw parts at it until it works. Then there's a few minor defects as well. Position lamp incorrect colour near side front. Position lamp incorrect colour off side front. Headlamp lens slightly defective near side. Headlamp lens slightly defective off side. They're just dirty, they need a polish. That's fine, I can live with that. And then there's a few advisories as well. Supplementary restraint system warning lamp does not illuminate. That's the airbag light. It doesn't come on when it should. It's only an advisory, so I'm going to leave it well alone for now. I'll come back to it, I'll have a look at it properly, but to get it through the MOT, I'm just going to ignore that. Oil leak but not excessive. That's the sump. That's an easy fix, I know about that one. Anti-roll bar pin or bush worn but not resulting in excessive movement near side front. Anti-roll bar pin or bush worn but not resulting in excessive movement off side front. I think those are the drop links. They're probably a little bit worn out and a bit old. I'll replace those in due course. And then there's just a note about the near side headlamp held in with cable ties. And that's it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the headlamps off, I'm going to polish them, fix the near side one in properly, adjust the aim. I'll figure out why these guys aren't working. And then I'm just going to get a handbrake cable, throw that in. Hopefully that'll do it. So my plan was to patch the leaky sump with JB Weld or something, but it turns out you can buy a new one for like £20 and you can just replace it without having to take anything off first. So that was a bit of a no-brainer really. I just undid all the bolts, tapped it around a bit and then levered it until the sealant broke and the sump came out. And then I scraped off the old sealant and cleaned up the mating faces. The new sump actually came with a gasket, and as I didn't have any sealant, I thought I'd just try using the gasket. If it does start leaking, it's not too big a job to take off again. It was dark by the time I was ready to fit the sump, but I was hoping to fit all this in around other work, so I ended up doing a lot of this work in the dark. I do like working on cars, but grovelling around on a gravel drive in the dark when it's below freezing, that really does test my love for the hobby. But still, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. What I wouldn't give for a nice big heated garage sometimes though. With a lift even. With all the oil leaks hopefully dealt with, I cleaned up the engine as best I could. If it's still leaking somewhere, it'll hopefully be easy enough to spot. Then I topped up all the gearbox oil I lost when I did the driveshaft. I thought I was clever using a turkey baster like this, but in the end it actually took ages. And then I put some fresh oil in and called it a night, so I could go inside for a cup of tea and get some feeling back in my fingers. Handbrake cable next. I'll be swapping this adjuster out while I'm here. I think it does work fine, but this way both adjusters will be the same. So I took the brakes apart first. And then unthreaded the cable. These clips gave me the most trouble. Access was extremely limited and they just wouldn't come out. I had to bend a lot of the heat shield out of the way to even get to this bit. And was it worth it? Well, one side was a little tighter, so who knows? Maybe. And yes, that is my blood on the clip there. Putting the new cable in was easy enough, and then I got everything back together with new springs and clips and the new adjuster as well. Everything seemed to work okay, which you'd expect given almost the whole handbrake system is new or nearly new now. Now to have a look at the headlights. Clearly whatever accident had bent the wing, I've broken one of the headlight brackets here, so I'll have to see what I can bodge together. The brackets at the bottom are usually covered by the bumper cover. Not a problem in this case. In fact, I can see the old brackets there. Well, that's handy. I might be able to use those. And here's where I hit a snag. I couldn't get the light out because the bull bars are in the way. And I couldn't work out how to get the bull bars off without taking the bumper off as well. As it was dark again, I just called it a night. The next day, I had a go at taking the bumper off. It looks like you need to take the cover off first. And then I realised I couldn't even get the cover off without taking the bull bars off, which I couldn't do without taking the bumper off. It's bolted to the bumper bar from the back somehow, and I can't get to the nuts, so I have no idea how this was even put on. But as I'm not planning on keeping the bars anyway, I just got my universal spanner out. I should probably have taken those lights off first. But that was just a couple of nuts, and then it was off. And I could finally get on with the job I'd started with. I took those extra lights off as well. I might refit them in the future, I might not. As you can see, the accident had torn the brackets right out of the headlight. It had also broken the adjuster mounting as well. I really need a new headlight, this one's wrecked. But with 2 days before the retest, I'm just going to have to make do with what I have. I melted the cracked plastic back together with a soldering iron first. that should hold nicely. Just for a bit of extra strength, I covered the brakes with some epoxy as well. And then it was time to polish the lenses. I started with 500 grit paper, before remembering I have a DA sander. So I went through all the grits all the way up to 3000 grit. And then finished up with a bit of machine polishing. Not perfect, but not bad for a few minutes work. So the lights went back in. I realised here that the bolt that holds one of the brackets had actually snapped in the hole, but this was the night before the MOT, so I just had to hope the one lower bracket would be okay. The rear lights were easy enough, they were just crusty and needed the connections cleaning. Somewhere in amongst all the work, I managed to lose the locking nut key. Fortunately, these aren't particularly high security, and I didn't want them anyway, so a bit of heat and some mole grips took care of that problem. I stole some nuts off my TR7 to replace them. They don't match, so I'll replace them with a matching set sometime in the next... never. Doing the final checks, I realised what they meant by the lights being the incorrect colour. Apparently the side light bulbs have been replaced with green ones. I hadn't even noticed that before. I had one in my stash, so that was no problem, but I needed another. So while I'm in the habit of robbing my other cars for bits, I thought I'd steal one out of my Saab. Easier said than done, mind. Access is really bad for these. But that turned out to be pointless anyway, as once I got it out, I discovered it was already blown. So instead I just grabbed one of the old bulbs and polished all the green coating off on the polishing wheel. While I was at it, I did the other one and put that back in the Saab, so I even managed to fix that as well. Okay, I'm back from the retest and it failed again. And here's why. My little fix didn't work, the bracket broke. So with the retest booked in for the next morning, I didn't have much time. The tester said it didn't have to be pretty, it just had to work well enough to get through the test. Which was fine with me, because this definitely wasn't going to be pretty. As I thought, my fix didn't hold. I found this bracket in the stash that would be perfect for the job with a little bit of modification. I just made the hole bigger, cut it to size, and screwed it to the headlight where the old bracket was. I also drilled a couple of holes in the side for a cable tie. And then just for good measure, I screwed in a couple of self-tappers. The cable tie ended up not doing much anyway. I do need to get some paint on here still. This is just covered in primer at the moment. Now this is a truck bed liner. These can be tinted in pretty much any colour you want. So trying to get an exact colour match for this and the exact consistency as well, that's going to be kind of tricky. Fortunately, as luck would have it, I don't care. The van's all kinds of different colours anyway, so I'll just add to the camo look here with some matte black. It'll do. Let that dry off a bit, get a bit of dirt on that, you wouldn't even notice that. So got the MOT sorted on the third try. A couple of advisories still. The airbag and the anti-roll bar bushes I already knew about. Also picked up a note on the oil leak. There's not actually leaking oil anymore, but there is a mess of oil under there, so that's fair enough. Annoyingly though, I've still got the note about the headlight being held in with a cable tie. It's not actually held in with a cable tie anymore, that's not actually really doing anything. It's actually held in by wood screws. It's not a big deal, it's only an advisory, but I wouldn't want anyone to think I was just bodging this now, would I? So now I've got the MOT sorted out, I can start using the van properly. But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done over the next few weeks. The reverse lights don't work. All this wiring needs sorting out. Probably need to get rid of that. Need to figure out what's making that noise. I should probably get a new front bumper. And I want to do something about this paintwork. Need to get some racking in here. Oh, and I need some new keys as well. That's the only one I've got. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed that. And there's plenty of work still to do on this van, so it'll be coming back in future videos. It's not going to be a perfect restoration like the TR7, it's going to hang kind of looser than that. It's a works van, it's my workhorse, so it's going to be a bit rough and ready. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!